Welcome again. On behalf of the European Parliament, I'm glad to see a sold-out room, even though I must admit that it looks a bit peculiar for me. The last time I was in a sold-out room, it looked a bit different. But those are the times that we are living in, and those are the times that we have to cope with, and I'm very happy to see all of you for this year's, for actually the first edition of the new LUX Audience Award. Some of you might still remember the LUX Prize, which was the European Parliament's film prize, created in 2007 to bring good European films that have transversal meaning, that have touched upon our European values closer to all of us. Last year, the European Parliament teamed up with the European Film Academy and created this new prize, which makes you, if you want to do so, part of the biggest audience jury. So once you have seen this film, you can go online on the page luxaward.eu and rate it. You can also rate the other two movies if you have seen them. If you like tonight's movie, Colectiv, you can still recommend it to your friends, colleagues, and so on, because you can still see it, watch it live in our virtual LUX cinema. You find the links to that on our website, europal.lu. This edition of the LUX Film Days, where we present this film to you in this sold-out room, is brought to you not only by the European Parliament, but also in partnership with the European Commission, who is partner in the LUX Audience Award, by the Institut Pierre Werner, by our friends of Cine East, and Radek Lipka, the director of this film festival, will give us shortly an introduction into the movie, and by SAMSA Film, because Luxembourgish company is co-producer of this film. Bernard Michaux and also the director Alexander Nanau will join us later on live from Los Angeles for the debate. And for that debate, I'm also very happy that we have amongst us one of the 705 members of the European Parliament, Isabel Wiseler. Welcome to this edition of the LUX Audience Award. Welcome, and thanks that you're here. Right after me, it will be up to Stefan Koppelberg, who's the acting representative of the European Commission, to give you a bit background on the issues that we will see in this movie. Before I get to that, as I mentioned, Bernard Michaux, if I'm not mistaken, I might look into the right direction of his parents, if I've seen the seating plan correctly. So welcome also to you. It's nice to have you here. Those who want to see this movie online can do that on our platform. You will there see as well Corpus Christi, which is the second movie out of the three. And we are still looking into the possibility of screening another round, the third movie, in the cinemas sometime in May. You can find information on that later on the social networks, on our website, and so on. That said, it's now to Stefan Koppelberg, representative of the Commission, Radek Lipka, and after the screening, we will have then, as I mentioned already, the opportunity to follow the debate with Isabel Wiseler, with the Luxembourgish co-producer Bernard Michaux, and with the director live from Hollywood. So I invite you all to stay on to watch that debate. It will be moderated by Yann Tonnar, who is Luxembourgish film director, who's president of the Luxembourgish Film Academy, and as such is also a member of the European Film Academy. And this closes basically all the different logos that you have seen before in the back. And I would also like to thank Kinopolis. They are part of Europe Cinemas. They also support the LUX Award. And with this, Stefan, over to you.
Thank you, Christoph. Hello, everyone. On behalf of the European Commission, I'm sorry I cannot be with you in this nice cinema in Luxembourg for this event, but at least I'm able to join you from Brussels. I admit I had the opportunity to watch the documentary before you will do it now, to watch it online. Many thanks for that. And I would like to first congratulate the film team and wish them really good luck for the Oscars. They deserve good luck. When we talked about this film and the opportunity to co-organize this event arose, we had no doubt that it was important to support the messages of this film here in Luxembourg. We think the Colectiv case and the film shows how freedom of the press, the right to health, and also the fight against corruption, that's all very much linked. For the rule of law to be able to exist, all EU member states must respect, protect, and promote press freedom and fight corruption in all forms. You know that this is actually a very strong criterion which is assessed in depth before a country's accession to the EU, so before a country that wants to join the European Union actually is able to join. And you also know that in Romania, but not only in Romania, but also in Romania, these issues have been an issue for a long time. But personally, I have been always very impressed that particularly in Romania, there have always been courageous people to fight against corruption and to fight for human rights. I've been lucky enough to have been myself in Romania, accompanying a group of journalists on the eve of the country's accession to the European Union. That was in December 2006, so just 3 weeks actually before the accession of Romania to the European Union. And we had the pleasure to meet Monica Macovei. Those who remember that, she was Justice Minister at that time. And those who are too young, well, I'll tell you, she was Justice Minister at the time. And while we were talking with her, we understood how difficult her position was and how much courage she must have. And it really seemed like a little miracle that she was able to hold that position, at least for some time. I only mention her as one example, but there have been many more. And I was always been very impressed by that. Coming to the present now, recently the European Union has expanded the framework for protecting the rule of law also in the member states, so the states that already are part of the European Union. Since 2020, so since last year, we have now an annual rule of law report that identifies emerging threats, including also, for instance, the safety of journalists, freedom of the media, corruption, all that. And this report can also be seen as part of a broader effort, for instance, also in the context of the new rule of law conditionality, which member states have to comply with if they want to have access to EU funds. Christoph already mentioned that after viewing the film, you will be participating in a debate on the film. For us, this debate will be a first glimpse into the Conference on the Future of Europe. This is a series of citizen-led debates and discussions that will allow everyone across Europe to share their ideas and help shape our common future. And I would really invite you to participate today and also afterwards. You're always welcome to go on the platform, Conference on the Future of Europe. Your opinion counts. It will feed this debate on Europe, which is meant to develop new European initiatives, legislative, non-legislative ones, where they are needed. Just to finish by saying that the representation of the European Commission in Luxembourg is, of course, present on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So follow us for all information on our future events. Many thanks to all our co-organizers, speakers, and particularly to our guests. Thank you and enjoy the debate and the film, of course. Thank you.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Good evening. My name is Yann Tonnar. I will already welcome, we have an audio feedback here, I need to be not too close. Miss Isabel Wiseler-Lima, who has the great honor to join us, member of the European Parliament, also, I think, member of the subcommittee on human rights, who recently also made an intervention on the fate of Maltese journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia, who was killed. So I think you are very in tune with the subject of this film. And we will be shortly joined by the director, Alexander Nanau, who I was told is in a meeting, but will join us in a couple of seconds. I was also informed that Mr. Nanau, who is now 3 days before the awards ceremony, has a very tight schedule, has only half an hour for us, which we understand, so we'll just so you know, we will focus the first half on speaking, on asking questions to Alexander Nanau, because he has only half an hour, and then we will open the broader discussion to the European context, and if that's okay for you. And we are also joined by Michaux, the Luxembourg co-producer of the film, who is also right now in LA, in Los Angeles, waiting for the award ceremony. And I think we will later be joined when Alexander has to leave, by Bianca Oano, who is the Romanian producer of the film. So just waiting for the video feedback. Can we have it? Hello, hello. And thank you for the organizers and to the audience. Yes? Here we are. Here we have already Oscar Award nominee Michaux, producer of the film, and joining us now also Oscar Academy Award nominee Alexander Nanau, director of this fantastic film. I think this merits a huge round of applause. Okay, sound
Thank you very
test.
much.
Okay, Bernard, also your sound is working?
Yes, I think it works.
Absolutely.
Okay, great, awesome. So we can start. Alexander, we understand that you have 30 minutes, so we will focus the first part of the discussion with you. Thank you so much for joining us. We are very, very honored that you are there, and we cross our fingers really that on Sunday, we wish you all the best.
Yeah. Thank you for doing the screening, and for your wishes. We will see. I think we feel that the fact that this film travels so much in the world, and that the press around the world is writing about it on a daily basis, is already, we feel it's already the best thing that could have happened to the film.
The reception of this film the reaction has been tremendous in the past months. There have been, almost every major news outlet in the US has listed it as one of the top 10 films. Documentary and fiction mixed of last year. Barack Obama even mentioned as one of his famous films of last year. How have you experienced the last months? There were tremendous reactions to these tremendous films. How do you feel right now in this very special moment, 3 days before the Academy Awards?
I think that regarding the fact that really the film seems to resonate around the world is most of all a feeling of, yes, cinema can connect us, and cinema is able to, to let us share our stories in such an universal way that we can learn from each other's life experiences. And it also shows us that we are very much alike in all different corners of the world. And I don't think that there are many borders anymore. Our governments are very much alike. The way we need to protect our democracies are very much alike. And for sure, the pandemic has shown us even more that nothing in our democracies is for granted. that greed will always be stronger than the, let's say, the responsibility to protect the lives of citizens.
That is certainly one of the great merits of one of the many great merits of the film, that it has such a universal appeal, although telling such a national story. Just a question to both of you: what's going to happen in the next dates? What is it like to attend an award ceremony in COVID times?
Bernard?
Yeah, well, well, firstly, we are of course happy that that we can be in LA and that we that there is like a physical celebration of the best films of last year, yeah, so I think we are more than happy to be here. It was an exciting and exhausting time, mainly for Alex, I think, who has been worked, well, firstly on the film, but since the film started its distribution in Venice 1.5 years ago, it was so much work for him, so that I think that it's also kind of a relief to celebrate again on Sunday and to move on. Alex?
Yeah, it is great that the Academy has done this effort to have us all in one place physically to meet our fellow filmmakers. The films are exceptional this year, and I think it's a good way to to close the circle of this film. And yeah, I mean, how could one not be happy to be at the most important recognition in the world for a film?
Definitely. So congratulations to that. I want to introduce Miss Isabel Wiseler-Lima, who I just said is a member of the European Parliament and very much in tune with the subjects of this film, as she is also a member of the subcommittee on human rights and has intervened recently also on the subject of the killing of journalists, in this case the Maltese journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia. Miss Isabel Wiseler-Lima, it's the first time you see the film. What is maybe your first reaction, and also maybe a question to the director and the producer?
I'm very moved. Thank you very much. It's very, how should I say, it talks about all the things I'm trying to make my best to go forward in Europe, but also you talked about the subcommittee of human rights. In this subcommittee, we look at what is going on in the world, and in the LIBE committee, Liberty Justice Committee, we look at what is going inside Europe. I'm also a member of this committee, and from the first moment on, I was really this feeling that democracy. You said it very well. It's how I really feel it. Democracy is not granted. The day we stop to fight for it, we lose it. And the corruption is one of the main problems we have, this greed. And the other theme I'm all the time working on is to have the liberty of expression, to have the journalists protected. And so perhaps you will talk more about it. The journalists are really in danger in this context of corruption, of when democracy doesn't work like it should work. So the film was, in my opinion, absolutely amazing, showing this on a very simple. All the things that are very complicated to do can look simple as they look when we look at what you did. It's really moving also in the way you are able to transmit the things like facts. It was. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before opening for questions from the public, I'd like to ask, I mean, maybe the first question, I guess everybody asks this, is what is the situation now in Romania in regards to the level of corruption, in regards to everything that is addressed in the film? I mean, we know that the minister in the film, the Vlad Voiculescu, was now, somehow we are again in a situation of a health crisis, and he was again Minister of Health, and he got sacked just last week, I guess. So can you tell us a little bit more about this, where he's at, where Tolontan is at today? What is the situation today in Romania in regard to all the facts that are addressed in the film?
First of all, I want to say, because you talked about the importance of the journalists and to protect them, and that is very true. But I think that what is even more important is that we have to encourage the citizens to come forward, because as we see in the film, it was a whistleblower, a woman doctor, who risked everything to go to the journalists and fight the system, and was successful through the investigations. As we've seen it in the United States now with George Floyd, it was a 17-year-old girl who filmed how this policeman killed George Floyd. So I think it is very important that people understand that you can change things if you stand up. And I think that the role of politics is to protect whistleblowers and to encourage people to come forward. Because the corruption that is happening in Romania on it's basically a small scale model of the world, let's say, is also because people not only participate in it, but are not coming forward to expose it. And that goes together with transparency. And, coming back to the Romanian situation today, I think that the worst thing in Romanian politics is that every government, when it, before elections, they promise to be reformative, to be transparent, to work in the service of the citizens. And every time the same thing happens. Once they're in power, they are not transparent. In Romania, it took journalists over 1 year to find out who the members of the commission that is taking care of the pandemic are. The members that communicate what will be done, and the members that take decisions upon the health politics during the pandemic. 1 year. And the government, although they say they're the democracy, refused to give the information to the journalists. So transparency is the first way of fighting corruption and making the process of politics visible. Yes, Voiculescu was again a Minister of Health because the Reformative Party he belongs to had enough votes in the last elections to be part of a coalition government. It was from the very beginning fierce fight through the media that is close to power, and politicians from across all old parties in Romania to denigrate basically what he tried to do in the ministry. And for example, his team transparized data about the vaccination, and because of that information, it was public information, but the system didn't want it to make it public. Journalists could see that there were more secret vaccine centers for the political and system nomenclatura than public centers, vaccine centers for normal citizens. Because they made it public, journalists could expose it, and the government was forced to open these centers. Nevertheless, they went after the team of Voiculescu and filed a penal case against them because they dared to open data that should have been open anyway. So Romania has not one single free ICU bed at this moment. The government in Romania is, I think, the only government that refuses to go into full lockdown. We see it from Chile to France to Germany. Governments understand that human life is more important than protecting the image of a government that is protecting the economy, as they say. We have a lot of death every day. The number is rising. And in the middle of this crisis, we have a big political scandal around the Minister of Health. This is everything else but responsibility towards the life of citizens. And I think in these times, the most important thing is that journalists, together with citizens, really, expose what is to expose, so that what goes wrong can be held accountable.
Alexander, as we are here by invitation of the European Union, what is your impression what the European Union can do in terms of protection of the press, protection of the whistleblowers, and also, I think, which ultimately is also a big theme in the film, simply the respect of the rule of law. What do you think it can do, and can you see from the situation in Romania that the presence or the action of the European Union is helpful?
It's such a complex thing that it's very hard to talk about it in 5 minutes. What can be done? But for sure, I think that accountability is the most important. That means that the judicial system has to be performative, and the European Union has to basically support the countries to support an independent judicial system. Because governments and these people and the healthcare officials, as in Romania, do not stop what they're doing, the corruption they're doing, and the lack of transparency, because they're not held accountable. Since Colectiv, not a single case was closed in court, which means nobody was, although there were sentences, there are still appeals are being heard. So nobody right now was really sentenced finally for anything. The managers of Hexipharma are walking free. So you can dilute for 10 years disinfectants in a European Union country and sell it to all public hospitals and just walk free after 5 years. No victim was compensated for what the Romanian state institution has done to them. And here, I think that, also the European Union and the Parliament and the Commission have to address these things. How can a European Union country have these disparities of accountability, and everybody pretends that it's a functioning democracy? And that goes down to many things, because after the Colectiv tragedy, many countries offered their help. The Romanian government refused the help, and only after people started to die, they accepted the help. So many doctors came into the country from England, from Belgium, from Germany, and they flew some patients out. And the doctors were for sure shocked about what they have found in Romania. They were shocked about the fact that these people have not been flown out earlier. Nevertheless, everything that was communicated, because even these doctors were forced politically, was that they found a wonderful situation in the Romanian hospitals, that the patients were treated great in Romania. And I think that if the countries politically cover each other up in the healthcare system, we have a problem.
Ms. Wiseler-Lima, do you want to react to?
The real wonder of this film is that it touched really all those things. It shows it in a very simple way. You see it. That a democracy can't live without truth. And there is this question in the film: how was it possible that the government that was responsible for what we have seen was elected again? And the answer was, I can't understand. And my answer is the same. I can't understand. I really can't. Only to think that people don't know, that people don't understand, that people are not interested. Or they are desperate and don't think that they can change anything, and they don't go to vote. So yeah. there are these two sides. But I really all think that there are lots of people who don't know because they are not interested, because they are living their life, and because they don't know. And this was also in the film. We were looking through the eyes of those journalists who were investigating and who were really keen to present the truth. There were other medias that had not this freedom, that were not in this state in spirit, and they were also very voicey, probably. I don't know all the details, but I suppose that there were lots of media who were giving the message of the other side. And often people don't know, do I believe this one or do I believe the other one? So that's really, really, really a problem. And you talked about, you mentioned the United States. We saw what was there. And also how easy it is to spread what isn't the truth. So we are really at the heart of it. And I won't make a beautiful picture of it. I can't. But in the parliament, the main political groups in the middle, in the parliament, I think that we really try to go forward, to defend democracy, and to put in place as many things as possible to help. But it's not easy. When a system is as corrupt as this one is, it's very, very difficult to come out of it. And I think it's also very hard. I'm sitting here as a politician. It's really hard to see how corrupt politicians can be. But it's not only them, it's really this whole system. It was heartbreaking to hear what doctors were saying about other doctors. So that you pay to have, when you are a patient, extra money to get treated. So when the system is corrupt, it's very, very hard. I don't think it's impossible to come out. And you said it very strongly. People have to come up. We have to give. That's one of the things we have to give power to the citizens, to the civil society. We have really to give them ways to voice the things. And again, give the investigative journalists really the support they need to do their job. If I can say one more thing, because I said before, perhaps we can talk again about the journalists. One of the things I find it like a mission, is that we have before I'm out of the parliament, before the end of this legislative period, that we have legislative possibility to go again to what is called SLAP. That's the journalists that by legal means are put in the possibility to work correctly. Perhaps you have heard about it. People who are very powerful, they are investigated by a journalist. I'm sorry, it's not always easy in English.
If I may just, because I think we have Alexander just a couple of minutes more, I want to give a chance to the audience to ask some questions, and we can go back to this issue, because there's a lot of more issues regarding the European Union we can discuss. I just want to I'm sure we have some questions here in the audience. Would you raise your hand? Everybody is very shy. Oh, there is a question. Okay, there's a microphone.
Okay, I have a question for Alexander. Do you feel, or I have two questions actually, do you feel the impact, the voice, okay. Do you feel any impact in the Romanian system after the launch of the movie? And let's say like the father of the minister, Voiculescu, said, did it wake up some people? And how long do you think this will last before the system will, let's say, swallow up this rage that it's creating? As we saw, it happened with Colectiv. If actually with the tragedy, after 1 year, everything was slowing down. How long do you think it will take? And do you see also from other parts of the world the same, let's say, reaction as you can imagine you see in the Romanian people? Thank you.
You heard the question?
Partly. Is it possible to...
So the question is, what, if I resume, what was the impact of the film in Romania, and does, I mean, according to you, how long will it take to change the situation? Does Voiculescu's father have the last words? Will it take 30 years, or what is your impression? How many years it will? Maybe the rage of the people will disappear again as quickly as it disappeared after the Colectiv scandal. Is that a correct resume of your question? Yeah.
Yeah, the impact was that it was seen by many people, mostly a very young audience. And we had very strong reaction from people that really have to decide if they leave Romania or stay in Romania, because they want to understand if something, if things can change, as we are also asking. It's very hard for me to, I'm a filmmaker, it's very hard for me to predict how long this will take, but what I can see or what I've learned through the process is that the learning curve of a society is much longer of the learning than the learning curve of individuals. Trust is gained very hard, and it can be lost very fast. And the Romanian society started to change since the Colectiv fire, since these press investigations. The civil society became much stronger. Even now during the pandemic, for example, it was the civil society through NGOs that by private donations built modular COVID hospitals that are fully functional, while the state built several modular hospitals that were never opened because they were only built to spend the money into several pockets, and they are not built at standards. So they cannot save any life because they are closed, right? So this shows that the citizens, the civil society, is aware of what has to change, which already leads to, you know, to the transformation of the society. But the backlash can be, you know, very fast, and you can never foresee, you know, these people and the system that is that corrupt will not just give up and say, okay, now people want something better and we'll, you know, close our pockets and go home. So it's very hard to say how much time it will take, but I think that one of the key, let's say, solutions is that those people that are well-intended are very firm about what they're doing to reform politics and such a system after they get into power. Because if they're not firm, the expectations of the people are very high for them to change things. And that's what we see in the film. The outcome of the vote, for sure, was happening in 2016, where it was a global trend towards populism. But most of all, it was the result of a disappointment of a society towards the technocrat government. The technocrat government had 1 year, were named into power because people took to streets, and they were named in order to change the way politics are done. And they were named into power upon a healthcare crisis after the Colectiv fire. And from their 1 year term, 6 months in the Ministry of Health, they had the Minister of Health that tried to cover up a company that was diluting disinfectants. How can you ever gain the trust back from a society when you promise a different politics, when you promise to work in the service of citizens, but you name a Minister of Health that is working in the service of a system that you've seen in the film?
Do we have another question from the audience? Yes, there's a couple over there.
Hi, first of all, well done for this documentary, live documentary. In fact, my question is related to this. What were your expectations when you started filming the documentary? Because it was live and you didn't know what will be the end result. So what were your expectations at the beginning with your team when you started filming?
I would say I had no expectations. I had more questions that I needed to find answers to. And I think the first one was, I want to understand what is happening in the Romanian society, that finally a young generation tries to push out their parents' political generation that destroyed the country and the society. I found that to be possibly a real turning point in the society. And then with all the manipulation of the healthcare system, you know, politicians together with doctors lying to a whole grieving nation about the fact that they can treat these patients and the real state of the Romanian healthcare system. I had a very simple question. I wanted to understand, what is power? How does power work? Who are these people that are in power and step on human lives, even doctors, without any problem? What is power doing to human beings, and who are they? And because we had no access to power, because it was as non-transparent as it still is, the only way was to try to shadow these journalists that investigate power and understand what it is. But we could never expect what happened afterwards. I mean, all the revelations so we started with the intention to understand the world better that was evolving around us, but we had no expectations where it will go. I'm very sorry, I have to move on, I have to leave. thank you very much for this. May I leave Bernard and Bianca, the other producer of the film, with you?
Of course, you may. I just want to get up to congratulate you again and wish you really the best of luck for Sunday. And thank you so much for this wonderful film and for being here now.
Thank you for the screening and for coming to cinemas to see the film. Bye.
So we welcome Bianca Oano. Hello, Bianca. We also had a chance to meet briefly last year in Luxembourg. So you are one of the Romanian producer of the film. So I just want to pass the word back to Ms. Wiseler-Lima regarding the role of the European Union. The question was, what can the European Union do? You mentioned this slab, which you can give maybe some more precisions. There's also the issue of Article 2 and Article 7 of the European Treaty. Article 2, which basically states, I don't know if I can read it from my paper, which of course are misplaced, but the respect of human rights and the rule of law, and Article 7, which allows it to make EU spending dependable on the respect of Article 2, actually. So, and there's a procedure that was started against countries like Poland and Hungary. So can you tell us a little bit more about the tools the European Union has and how effective they actually are if they get, for example, blocked in the end by the Council of Ministers because you need total unanimity? Yes, can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yes, you talked about Article 7 that was launched by the Council for one country and by the European Parliament for the other country, for Poland and Hungary, as you said. And you are absolutely right that there is like a waiting time that waits, and it's really not what we want. One thing I really think will be effective, it's what we managed this year. That's that the budget of the European Union that goes to each country is conditional to the rule of law respect in the country. And Hungary was very difficult to get to be okay with it because it's there is an unanimity vote necessary for a budget, but we got to get it because the European Parliament said it would not vote the budget if this conditionality wasn't there, and it is there now. It's not effective right now because Poland and Hungary asked that it should be controlled if this was in line with the treaty. So we are waiting for the Court of Justice to say if yes or no, but I don't doubt that it is yes. And so I think it's on that place where it's the most effective. The countries will not get European money if they don't comply with the rule of law. So I think here we have a real instrument to get to what we want, that the rule of law is in every country like it should be.
Okay, is there another question from the audience, either to Ms. Wiseler-Lima, to Bianca Oano, to Bernard? Yes?
Yes, hello. So first of all, thank you very much for this work. Very interesting, very strong, I would say really very, very strong. I want to say also bravo to you as a producer, because to have the guts to produce such a movie in your country, it's very difficult. And compliments also for Luxembourg that is helping to produce these movies, and going to the Oscar is fantastic. And there is a second Luxembourgish production that went to the César, didn't manage to the Oscar, but they won a César. So this shows that it's very important. What I found very impressive in this movie, you were speaking about facts, is to show that the Minister of Health is in a certain way blocked. He cannot do much. Even though we have sometimes we could think about, oh, but he is minister, he could do this and that. There is in a situation where he cannot move. There are so much power playing the game that it's very difficult. And I think we should think about it, because sometimes we use the word everybody, all the politicians, all the journalists, and this is a mistake. There are some people which are fighting, some which are not fighting. And we should make this difference, and this movie shows the difference between a journalist who is really doing a job and is a sport journalist, not really something that should follow this kind of case. And not all the journalists are playing the same game. It's a war, and there are some powers, and it's an army. And sometimes, as the producer said, the director said before, you can have one critic, and this can destroy everything. But to build your positive image, you need a lot of examples. And this is something we have always to take in mind, because sometimes it's so easy to judge. And honestly, bravo for what you did, because it shows facts, it shows a situation, and it's not really taking a position. It's clear that it's horrible, terrible, but really bravo, bravo. So,
Bianca,
thank you very much.
Do you want to react to that? Also, maybe also say something about the production conditions. For sure, funding for film in Romania is much, much worse than in Luxembourg, does not compare in any way. So you have to be very courageous and determined. So what is it like to produce such a film in Romania under these conditions, also knowing that you attack basically almost everybody? I mean, big business, the health system, the politicians, maybe even journalists. Were there threats on the productions? I remember also Bernard told me about all the advantage of securing the rushes. So Bernard, you may also tell us a little bit about the whole production process of this film.
Thank you very much for the kind words before. Just a little background information. I have been working with Alexander since 2011 on his previous film as well, Toto and His Sisters. And we are together producers on this film, together with Bernard and Hanka Kastelitsova from HBO Europe. And it's an honor for me to continue working with Alex. He has his own production company, so we have produced this film on his production company, and we have the support from the Romanian Film Fund, and also from Film Fund Luxembourg. So it was, in terms of financing the film, we were lucky to have Bernard on board very early on, who committed into financing part of the development, and also Hanka Kastelitsova, who had been also involved in his previous film, Toto and His Sisters. And this would be the third co-production that Alex is doing with HBO. In terms of financing, we were really doing the classical approach, let's say. We submitted an application to our film fund, and of course we were wondering what the result would be, but we did not hide anything about the intentions of the film. So we had an honest application, and we were lucky in a way, because back then it was still the technocratic government in place. You're coming here? Okay.
Yeah. It's too loud outside.
Okay. So we were still having the technocratic government by the time we submitted to the Romanian Film Fund. And the project was supported the first in the contest, so it got the highest grade. And in terms of the production process, of course, it was the most important thing was to secure Alex's back in terms of production. So he would most of the times be by himself, only with a sound recordist, who is also one of the most important collaborators on the film, Mihai Grecea. He's a survivor of the fire. He's a filmmaker himself, and he has helped and been there from the beginning together with Alex. And he was also doing sound recording on the film. Let's say the complex job of the production was to secure that every time they wanted to go somewhere and shoot, that they would have the permission. So we constantly were in contact with a lawyer, and we were all the time in the office to make sure that he's able to shoot in the parliament, in the government building, in the tribunal
at court,
yeah, for the trial about the Colectiv fire and so on.
Because I think because Bianca was now also speaking about images that you can't see in the film, but there were about 400 hours of footage that had to be edited to 2 hours film.
That's right. So we shot throughout 2016 and partly in 2017, although what you see in the film, that the events stop with December 2016 with the elections. But actually we shot also in 2017 with the protests that happened after that government was put into power, and they tried to obstruct justice. You might have heard about those huge protests in Romania at the time in February 2017. So Alex continued to shoot quite some time afterwards, but we realized that this was the best shape of the film. The most important part of it is what you've already seen.
Bernard, do you want to also to say a word about the production process? I think this whole Luxembourg-Romanian co-production, if I'm not wrong, originated here, as Alexander was here in Luxembourg with his previous film, also a very, very good documentary film, Toto and His Sisters, which I think won the Luxembourg Film Fest that year, and you were on the jury and you met, and this is how your connection to Alexander originated. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with this film?
Yeah, sure. So, as you said, Alex, he was I met him in Luxembourg, where he presented Toto and His Sisters, a film that I really loved. And so the year afterwards, he was a jury at the film festival, where we met again. And it was shortly after that he first told me about this case, about that he would start filming. And when he pitched it to me, I was like, I want to be in. I want to help as much as I can, and so that's why when we came in with development money, and then later on we applied, of course, in Luxembourg for the National Film Fund, and so then I was in the editing room with the team, and then we did a lot of the post-production in Luxembourg.
And we did the research with Lydia.
And we did the research on all the footage that, so one team member, Luxembourg team member, did all the research on all of the international TV footage that was existing about this case.
Yeah, we had a huge development process research together with the Romanian team and the Luxembourg team, where Alex needed to understand how the media works and what has been said about the case, how it was presented to the world, because we knew that in Romania it was presented in a particular way, and we were very curious about how foreign press agencies and foreign journalists are talking about the case. So Olivia did a huge work of gathering newsreels from every country. Yeah.
Okay, is there another question from the audience? Yeah, I see 2 raised hands here.
Hi, yeah, so quite a simple question. In this film, we see Romania really struggling in many ways. And I just wonder what's made it possible in the last 15, 20 years for Romania to develop this really strong film tradition, you know, a really flourishing culture of film.
Did well, you know, about the Romanian film wave and all the great directors that came out in the last 10, 15 years?
Yeah, there's a lot of precedent, as you may know, starting with Cristi Puiu's Death of Mr. Lazarescu, which is in great conversation with our film, showing the POV of a patient going through the Romanian healthcare system. I don't know. I don't think I have a concrete answer to that. I get this question a lot, mostly because I've also been involved with Adina Pintilia's Touch Me Not, the 2018 Golden Bear winner, and everybody is asking what's going on in Romania. What are you guys doing there that you're winning so many awards? And I think there's not a simple answer to the question. You know, in general, in cinema history, there are waves, national waves. We had the Iranian wave, we had starting with the French New Wave. So there are particular periods of time where either something socially and politically is happening in a country that moves the artists in a way that they coagulate. But I wouldn't say, you know, for me, with the filmmakers that I've been working on, I wouldn't say there's a recipe. Alexander is a half German, half Romanian. He hasn't studied in the same film school as Cristi Puiu and Cristian Mungiu or Corneliu Porumboiu. Cristi Puiu studied painting in Switzerland. So they are very diverse in a way. And I think the merit just goes to each and every one of them for what they managed to do at a particular moment in time. And just as we have these filmmakers that are gathering attention, so do other countries just as much. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Okay, Radek just said we can also ask questions, of course, in French. I think Bianca does understand French or German or Luxembourgish. We can translate. Romanian, I'm not so good, but I'm sure Bianca can understand. So feel free to ask questions in whatever language you want. We have one more question up there.
Okay. So I want to thank you and the whole film crew for educating people, actually. I think it's a great way to bring people together and to make them feel something in common, that they have something in common. So on a second thought, my question would be, do you think that maybe people that are uneducated, maybe is something in the countries where people are uneducated more common, that the corruption from ground up is so big? And what could people do that are in a state of power to make this better, to make more awareness?
You heard the question, Bianca?
Sort of. So what would...
How the level of education of people is related to the level of corruption. So is it that the people are less educated, which makes it easier for system of corruption to exist? Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, of course, lack of education is fundamental to anything, actually. It goes down to culture and how many people actually have access to culture and how many people have access access to information. So in terms of education, obviously, I mean, Romania is mostly rural, and we still have villages that don't have electricity up in the mountains or don't have running water, although we are in the European Union. So, of course, there is a lot of infrastructure still missing because of this rampant corruption. I think people are quite aware of corruption. So even if they are educated, even if they are not educated. So in my perspective, I think that, of course, education plays a very important role, but information plays just as an important role. So in a country where the political fails, but that the NGOs, Alex mentioned earlier on that our civil societies raising in power, and they start to make things, they become invested in the well-being of the nation. I think that the fact that you have access to information is also very important, and the way journalists write and the way people get involved themselves as citizens into the way their country is working. That's also important. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I see a yes there. Yes, yes. If I may add something, and I mean, I find it, this is the third time I see the film now, and actually I find it, the more I watch it, I find it more difficult, because you see more and more how crushing the system is and how despairing, but there's also hope in it. And for me, the hope is, I mean, many people have mentioned it. The representative of the Commission, of the European Commission, said before the film that Romanian people are very brave, and the hope in this film is that actually the truth does come out. And there are some consequences, even though not all of them that I expected. And Alexander told about the role of the Romanian society, and Ms. Wiseler-Lima spoke also about the truth and facts and the protection of that. And you see that the Romanian people, maybe they don't vote, but they go to the streets and they fight for their rights. And it does. The first government had to step down. Then there were protests in 2017. And there is this film now which is nominated for the Oscars, and there's also this great Romanian film wave we talked about. So I see reason for hope there, and also I join what the representative of the European Commission said in the beginning, that you see also a lot of bravery in Romania. And maybe Ms. Wiseler-Lima wants to add something.
Yes, perhaps for the film, I said how much moving it was for me, and the director told also about this showing the powers, and we get in this story of powers, and also the journalists that look for the truth, and you see all, yes, this fight for the truth, and you could get involved only in this powers games, but the film really shows that it's all these power games are about lives, and that people are suffering, and some are helpless at that moment, and I think this is very, very strong in the film. You feel that it's not only words, it's not only people that decide somewhere, and even journalists that are looking for the truth, but it's really the life of people that are at stake. And you show it very in their reality, and I think this is something very, very strong. And the other thing we have said it's about the hope, about the civil society, but I think this is very, very strong. Also, as how the film ends, I don't know, I would like to hear from you about this abrupt ending of the film. It comes after this scene at the cemetery, so I wanted to hear what you would say about it.
Bianca, Bernard, do you want to react?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just asking Bernard if I understood the
question.
The question. Yeah.
This abrupt end to the film. You know, you just cut to black, and it's very harsh.
Yeah, we were just talking about this the other day with Alex. I mean, he was answering a question of someone who asked the exact same thing, I will just rephrase a little bit what he said. Maybe Bernard, you can start, and then do you remember what you? No, it's okay. Then I will rephrase. Basically, that is a very charged scene, and it's very easy, I guess, to become overly emotional in a scene. And for Alex, I think it was very important to end by a brutal cut, the same way our emotions end, you know, and the fact that it doesn't allow you to sit in that emotion for too long, because that in a way it contains your emotion and it brings you up to reality, to the reality of your own of being alone with yourself after you've seen that. So you are in the film and you have this very strong emotion and caring about that family, but then this cut makes you go back to yourself and what you feel, and it leaves you inside yourself and how you reference that. For him, it was very important to, he always talks about this, the engagement of the audience with the story and this relationship that the film forms inside of ourselves and what we take from the film afterwards, and we act in our real lives afterwards. This is, yeah, the key aspect for him.
Okay, we have time for one more question from the audience, if there is one. No, then maybe we cut here too. Ms. Wiseler-Lima, do you want to add something? Or do we do an abrupt cut, fade to black, cut to black?
I feel the need to thank again for the work you did. It's really, really moving. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Absolutely,
Thank you very much.
I think we can all agree here. Thank you very much for taking the time. I know you have a busy schedule, and yeah, Radek shows me we are all crossing our fingers, and we are all here with you, with all our hearts, and wish you all the best for Sunday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the audience and the organizers. All the best to you.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.